Welcome to my garage refresh. After getting most of the yard tools out of my garage and freeing up some space, I thought it'd be a good idea to add some paint. In most garages that means dealing with drywall. And after 12 years, there's a bunch of seams that have buckled, there's some areas that need some work. Thankfully, doing drywall work in a garage can be kind of forgiving because it's a garage. So I broke the work into 3 sections, primarily because I'm old, I get tired easily, and I kind of get cranky when I'm dealing with drywall. The first section is the wall with my ladder, and that was the worst part because once the ladder hits the ground, it turns my garage into an obstacle course. That's done, thankfully, and I've also done the back wall all the way down to where this ladder is. The third section is just this last area here around to up above my garage door, and then finishing up on some touch-ups, and then also doing my door. So for the door, I just have to paint. In my garage, I'm doing 2 rounds of mudding and sanding, 2 rounds of sealing primer, and then 2 rounds of paint. And I'm not doing the ceiling. The ceiling's kind of a mess. I have some work that I have to do to patch certain areas. I have a kayak that's on a block and tackle system up on the roof. And then I have a bunch of lights, and that's just not happening right now. So now that I'm on the final section, which is behind me and above my garage door, and then on the bulkhead or the transom that is basically straight up, I thought I would share some of the things that have worked for me as someone who sucks at drywall, and maybe save you a trip or two to Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever you get your stuff. One of the things I found really useful was to take frequent breaks. As I'm mudding things up, I tend to get it all over the place, and that adds to my frustration. I get it on the tools, I get it on myself. I essentially turn into a human mud snail and leave a trail of compound everywhere I go and on everything I touch. And what I found was, if I get to a stopping point, take a break, clean things up, and then come back, I feel a lot calmer when I'm continuing on. And so definitely would suggest doing that if you suck at drywall like I do, or you're new to drywall. Give yourself some grace and take a break. Make sure that you resolve any issues that exist before you start doing your mudding. That includes areas where the tape has come up, has buckled, where you have to cut it off, retape. Deal with all that crap first. If there's nails that are sticking out, if there's anything that's protruding on the surface, you gotta deal with that, because otherwise it's just gonna be a mess when you go to mud it. In terms of the tools that have been helpful for someone who doesn't do drywall on a regular basis is a 6-inch knife, 3-inch knife, 12-inch, and then I really like this 5-inch corner tool. This is great for somebody who doesn't do this stuff very often. You also need a pan or something to put the mud in, and this works great because it has a nice sharp edge that you can use to get the mud off of whatever knife that you're currently using. Make sure that the pan that you get is going to be sufficiently large to cover whatever knife you're using. When you're buying these things at Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever, you can just get the knife and make sure it's going to fit in the pan before you buy it. I really like this concrete fix from Sika Pro, and I use it on the concrete foundation around the perimeter. And then any type of decent caulk that is mold resistant for areas above is good to have on hand. For doing corners, I found that this Straight Flex Perfect 90 tape works really well. It must be a DIY thing because I don't see people that know what they're doing using it. I like it though, and it's really nice for doing the corners because I find that it has a little bit more texture to it and it kind of stays in place. What I find that I do with this is I move the tape around. I know it's user error, but for the extra, I'll spend the extra money on this since I just don't do drywall that often. It's just a lot thicker material. And I find that this, I don't know if it's because of the texture on the tape, but I find that this stays in the corner a lot better than the regular tape, which is a lot more flimsy. I do use this stuff on flat seams though. This isn't for flat seams. One of the reasons why I really don't like drywall is because of the drywall dust that gets everywhere. So I went ahead and bought a sander that hooks up to my Shopvac. This thing actually did a really good job, and it takes these larger sanding pads like this. These ones work pretty well too, and they also stick to the hook and loop system on the sander. There are a couple things I really like about this sander. First of all, I can get to the top of my 10-foot ceilings with it without having to stand on a ladder. It makes quick work of going over large areas, and I do like that. I do have to be a little bit careful with it because if you leave it in one place for too long, you will take off more compound than you probably want to. I'm using 150 grit on the first round of sanding, and then 180 grit on the second round of sanding. I try and keep it moving in kind of circular movements, and I find that works pretty well for me. To smooth out the edges, after using this, I am using these 3M sanding pads. These are fine. These things work great, and I would have one in each hand, kind of doing the wax on, wax off thing, and they work great to kind of ease your compound where you put the compound back into the wall, so it's a smooth transition. I'm not mixing up my own joint compound. I'm using this USG +3. This I think is an all-purpose sort of joint compound. I like it. Works really well for me. And I've gone through more than I thought. I've gone through about 1.5 of these pails. And I think 2 pails is about right for my 20 by 20 garage. I'm not doing the ceiling, so you would probably need more if you're doing ceilings. I went ahead and bought one of these larger skim coat knife things, and just because I thought it might save me some time, make things easier. What I found was the 12-inch knife was good enough for me, and the only time that this really worked super well was on a large horizontal seam that I could walk along and pull this. Everywhere else, I stopped using it because I just couldn't work with it when I was up on the ladder, and it was hard where you start and stop to get it to continue to be just right. I'm probably not using it for what it's meant for, so that's probably it. I thought it might save me some time, and I don't know if that's the case. Your mileage may vary. You're going to want to have a nice ladder for getting up close to the wall, especially in areas like I have a rail here for my garage door, or just if you need to scoot yourself into a corner. One of the nice things about these Gorilla type ladders, this is a Werner one, but it has the same mechanism, is that you can independently raise or lower either side of the ladder. So to scoot it up into get underneath the rail. The nice thing about these is I can just raise this side up. And then that allows me to get closer to the wall and kind of scoot underneath or over the top of the rail up there. The same thing for when you're doing on stairs. It's very handy for stairs where you'll have different heights. Like the stairs are going to be a little bit higher up, and you can adjust the ladder so that you've scooted it right up to the stairs, and the ladder's still steady, and you can get right above the door frame. So the last thing I mentioned is it's nice to have cardboard to put up against the wall to protect the floor. I realize my garage floors are a train wreck, but there's no point in adding more to it, and it's nice. It's a quick and easy way of reusing some cardboard. This is a Amazon box, and this is a Home Depot box, and I keep it around just for stuff like this. Well, that wraps up this video. Thanks for watching. Good luck on your garage refresh, and stay tuned for an update on mine. In the next video, I'll be sealing, priming, and adding a couple coats of paint. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Just click the button. It literally takes no effort. See you in the next video.